and a proposal for how to go forward. That would involve 3 steps. One of setting up a listserv for those folks who have been part of the conference who would like to be on one. For communicating about items like working groups that could be set up, and then we could talk about setting those up perhaps in smaller meetings or on listserv on some of the issues that we've been talking about for the last in this wrap-up period. Because there are a number of concrete projects that I'm hearing people would like to work on. And then the third thing is to start planning for an annual meeting, to make this an annual thing, and use that listserv to start talking about how that could happen. I don't know how we made an agreement if we want to go forward with that.
I think the listserv idea is a good one, and I'd love to help out with that somehow. Something that we could do at Open Media, I'm sure. In terms of the getting funding from the government, I think that I don't think we have to wait for a benevolent government. It could be a while. The Canadian Media Fund right now, they're trying to decide what to do with the experimental media stream there. So that could be put towards independent media if we lobby for it, and we could also lobby. I've also been lobbying that they don't give a guaranteed envelope of 150 million to CTV, but that could be again fought over, I think. There's the Cactus proposal, of course, which is going on right now, and I think they could use, and we're involved in that. We could use a lot of help there from people. Heritage Canada is also mulling over the potential for them to provide funding to online independent media, and that's a key engagement point too, because I think they're actually going to do it, and they might just need like a nudge. But there's other ways we can engage. Those are some things we can do right now.
Okay. I should give Arnold a chance to make your point or question.
Okay, I just raised my hand to just throw in a brief look at Europe, which is the region where I'm from and where I lived until a few months ago, because I was thinking about that in that respect, also regarding the point on movement building and the different components for that, and political opportunities that were raised at the beginning, and so on. I was thinking about what's going on in Europe in that way, that there is not much of a media reform or media democratization movement for several reasons, but there has been a lot in recent years on privacy and surveillance, for example, around that issue area. And one of the reasons was that there has been a particular threat, a regional directive on data retention by the European Union, and so there's been a lot of mobilization around that. And maybe also relating in some way to a particular history in that region, because of course there is a certain experience in parts of Europe about surveillance, dossiers about citizens gathering information about communication and all these kind of things. And so I just want to throw that in to see there are sometimes threats or opportunities that come from various, maybe unforeseen directions that relate to a certain history of a region or a country, and could be taken on as a way to build a bigger movement to raise public interest around the issues that were discussed here.
Any comments?
In terms of government funding, I think a lot of interesting work's been done by Robert Chesney in this regard. I'll leave it mostly at that, but just to say that across the board subsidization of mailing costs, or across the board tax credits for media, make a lot of sense in the sense that it minimizes the ability of the government to meddle, but it does encourage a proliferation of media activity, which I think, despite my emphasis of certain qualities of media activity, is nonetheless a good thing. I'd just like to echo Dom's point about accessibility. I do think that I've had an interesting time at the conference, and I think I've met a lot of pretty interesting people that I'd like to work with going forward. But I do think that we represent a tiny fraction of the potential coalition for media democracy in Canada. And I think that accessibility has a lot to do with that moving forward. So, I mean, just by way of anecdotal example, I think that demographically, white people are the minority in Toronto, but we do nonetheless represent the vast majority of people in this room. And that's not to say that that necessarily means anything, but I do think that it raises questions about the ability or the sort of amount, the quality of the outreach, and it points perhaps ways that it could be improved in terms of reaching out to other communities who are disproportionately affected by the lack of democracy and the lack of justice in the media system in terms of the structures of power and the systemic racism that it represents. And I think that the media does play a large part in enabling ongoing sort of racist values and enabling a systemic inequality. And I think if we're going to have a media movement that tries to democratize media, that has to be addressed head on.